I found out my spouse cheated with her former college student. I reached out to the other person's wife, and we decided to get back at them. Love can drive you to do anything. I'm a 37-year-old man, married to Kate, who is 35, for 2 years. Kate teaches at City College, and I work in marketing. We met at a friend's party and became friends. We connected on social media, but nothing happened for a while. At that time, she was seeing someone, and I was also in an on-off relationship. About 4 years ago, I wished her a happy birthday on Facebook. It was late at night. The chat lasted all night, and we met for coffee the next day. She didn't have any plans for her birthday, so I took her out for dinner and a long drive. It began then, and 2 years ago, we got married. Last month, we celebrated our second anniversary. Our life was going well until a few weeks ago when someone mentioned seeing Kate with a younger man, probably in his 20s. I asked him why it was such a big deal. He could just be a friend. My friend told me that their body language didn't seem friendly. They sat close together, his hand resting on Kate's waist, his lips nearly brushing against her cheeks. He said he stood there for a while to see if it was just a misunderstanding, but he actually saw them cuddling. I asked him if he took any pictures of them. He mentioned it happened so fast that he didn't think to take any pictures. It was a public place, and he worried that people would judge him for taking a photo of a couple in their romantic moment. I trusted my friend, but it felt too unclear to bring it up with Kate. I couldn't call her a cheater just because of what my friend saw. When I got home, I found Kate focused on a book. I wanted to ask her if she saw her friend that day, but I wasn't sure how to do it without sounding weird. It would have been simpler if we were a couple who talked about every little thing that happened during the day. We shared some things, but not everything. Only the important stuff. I began chatting with Kate to help get into the zone. I ran into my school friend today at a client meeting. He was a client, and we had lunch together. She responded in a typical way, saying, "Oh, that's nice. It must have been nice to reconnect with your old friend." I agreed. I asked her about her day. She mentioned it was nothing out of the ordinary, then returned to her book. I felt that something wasn't right. If he was her friend or coworker, she would have mentioned having lunch with him. He was definitely not her friend. After that day, I became more aware and began to pay close attention to Kate. I observed her for several days, but I didn't see anything unusual in how she acted. I couldn't ignore it, so I decided to check her phone. That night, while she was asleep, I accessed her phone. Her inbox and social media were empty, aside from the usual messages from colleagues and students. I looked at her phone log, but everything seemed normal. I went through the call history from the day my friend saw her with a man. I received a phone call right when my friend spotted them together. The contact was saved as Rumi16, indicating he was her student from the 2016 batch. Kate saves her students' contact with their name and batch number for easy recognition. I was confused. It seemed normal that she was sitting close with a student. It seems really strange and unpleasant. I noticed that I looked through the messages of her colleagues and friends, but I didn't find any chats with her students. It's hard to believe that your wife would be involved with her student. I opened her WhatsApp and searched for Rumi's chat, and there it was. She had been sending him explicit messages for the last few months. Before that, the chat was from 2016, filled with messages of goodbye and well wishes. 2 months ago, he sent her a text saying he was back in the city. He moved to Texas after graduating. I didn't have time to go through all the messages individually, so I exported the chat to my email and deleted the history. I wanted to see all the messages she sent to her young lover. I spent the night going over the conversation again and again. After reading the messages, I realized we had a physical relationship while he was still in college. It began when Kate enrolled in his class during his last year. Rumi noticed that Kate liked him, so he began to flirt with her gently. Kate tried to brush it off at first, but eventually admitted to him that she had a strong urge to be close to him. Their physical relationship began like this. Near the end of college, he fell for a girl who was the daughter of a wealthy businessman in Texas. After graduation, he chose to move to Texas with her. Kate felt down, so Rumi tried to lift her spirits several times during his final months at college. I was looking at her phone and only saw the farewell wishes. I didn't scroll up to see anything else. I'm glad I exported all the chat. It helped me understand the full story. I doubt Kate would have shared all of this in detail. Interestingly, Kate was seeing someone else at that time. This indicates that she has consistently cheated. Kate and Rumi hadn't spoken since he moved out, only exchanging simple birthday and Christmas wishes. About 3 months ago, Rumi sent her a message saying he had moved back to the city with his wife. His wealthy girlfriend from Texas became his wife, and now he is managing Phil's business in the city. Rumi started talking to Kate by saying he missed her and wanted to be close to her again. Kate initially pushed back against his advances, but eventually she relented and slept with him a few times. Looking through the messages, it seemed like it happened 4 to 5 times. When I finished reading the chats, it was already dawn. I had to work the next day, so I tried to get some sleep. When I woke up, she was already gone to college. I made my breakfast and headed to the office. When I got back from work, Kate was not home. She typically gets back from college by 5 p.m., but it was now 7 p.m., and she still wasn't home. She often spent time with her friends and coworkers after college, and it didn't bother me. This time, I wanted her to be home so we could finally confront each other and move on. I had all the proof, so I got straight to the point. The realization was overwhelming, and I just wanted it to end quickly. As time went on, I became restless. I called her and told her to come home. She asked me if everything was okay, since I had never acted this way before. She got home in half an hour. As she walked into the house, I was on the front porch. She realized it was serious, since I wasn't on my phone or iPad, just sitting there doing nothing. She hurried over and asked me what was the matter. I said to her, "Sorry for interrupting your meeting with Rumi. Is that his name?" She shot me a cold glance and asked what I meant. I mentioned that playing hide and seek was unnecessary now. She claimed I was making unfounded accusations. I shared the chat exports with her, and she went silent. She paused for a moment and then said I had invaded her privacy. Seriously? I accessed her phone without permission, which was a violation of her privacy, but her actions with other men aren't illegal. Impressive. I asked her if her previous breakup was because of this Rumi guy too. She told me it wasn't my concern. I kept saying the same thing over and over, and she admitted that her last boyfriend had broken up with her when he found out she was sleeping with her student. I laughed and asked how she could be so naive to ruin her relationship for a guy who had everything in order and was living his life calmly. She pushed back, claiming he was truly addictive. What is happening? Is there cocaine in his blood? I told her she needed to leave since we were in my house. She seemed indifferent and stated there was no need to make a big deal out of it. It was purely physical, without any feelings attached. She urged me to think again about my choice since I was acting on a whim. I told her to leave, and that was that. She stomped her foot and went inside, yelling that I would regret my choice and return in 2 days, begging her to come back home. Seriously? She was completely out of touch with reality. I would never beg her to come back. That's not happening. She gathered her things as I sat on the front porch. As she left, she didn't glance my way and walked straight out. I informed her that I would be sending the divorce papers shortly, and that if she valued herself, as she did back then, she should sign them without contest. She walked away without a word. She acted like I was the one at fault, and I messed up by looking at her phone and finding out she was cheating. As I was leaving the house, she gave off a strong feeling that she wasn't going to let this slide. If she had been polite, I would have moved on, but her outbursts made me want to crush her ego. I looked for this Rumi on social media before he could block me. I looked through his wife's profile and sent her a friend request since her account was private. I decided to hire a lawyer. Rumi's wife still hasn't accepted my request after 2 days. I didn't wait for her anymore. I shared some parts of the sex chats between Rumi and Kate, and she got back to me in under an hour, asking for more details about it. I informed her that I was Kate's husband, the one Rumi had been seeing. I sent the part of the chat where Rumi discussed real estate. I asked her to take care of Dad's business. She wanted me to send her the entire conversation. I wanted to meet her and tell her everything, but I didn't go for it because it might have seemed creepy. I requested her email and sent it to her. She asked me how I found out the truth, and I explained everything clearly. I advised her to read the messages closely for better understanding. After a few hours, she replied, asking if I had talked to this Kate. I agreed. She mentioned she would get her father involved to handle Rumi, and then went offline. I tried to see how she was doing, but she hasn't been online since we talked. It's been 3 days since that happened, and I'm worried about that woman and whether she's okay. Rumi was taking advantage of her father's wealth. I'm worried he hurt her once she found out the truth. I've been trying to contact her on different social media and through emails, but I haven't had any success. I hope she's okay. My lawyer is preparing the divorce papers. I'll provide an update when things get more intense. Update 1. I appreciate the support. I thought I was acting on a whim, but I went through with it anyway. I felt really good when people commented on my post and gave me praise, saying I made a bold choice. Thanks, everyone. I have some updates. Remember I mentioned that Rumi's wife wasn't replying. She was gone for about a week. When I got a response, I wasn't relieved. I was suspicious about whether it was really her or Rumi using her phone, so I asked for a call. She noticed my messages, expressing worry for her safety. She called me right away, and I felt relieved. After reading the messages, she immediately booked the next flight to Texas. She felt isolated in the city and didn't want to handle Rumi by herself, who seemed suspicious in their messages, so she brought her parents into the situation. She turned off her phone for a week on her lawyer's advice because Rumi was trying to reach her in every way possible. Her parents worried that if he spoke to her, he could sway her with some bad reasons. She claimed she wasn't foolish enough to believe him, but she still took her lawyer's advice. Do you know what Rumi's Phil did to him? It is timeless. They chose not to address the cheating with him. They found some accounting problems in the office managed by Rumi, and until those were resolved, he needed to keep his distance from his wife. Rumi couldn't understand why his in-laws were acting suspiciously. Phil believed that a cheating case in court wouldn't harm Rumi much, since the court doesn't penalize infidelity. At most, he might have been asked to pay alimony for the emotional distress of his wife, but his Phil didn't care about money. He wanted to ruin him. A few days later, someone reached out to me. Rumi. His exact words were, "Your wife is delusional. She is making up stories and insisting I marry her. Doesn't she know I'm 10 years younger than her? Yes, we had sex, but I can't marry everyone I sleep with." What happened was, when Rumi told Kate about his issues with his in-laws, Kate said that it was I who had leaked the chats to his wife. Rumi mentioned that nobody was discussing the affair. They were focused on the accounting problem in the company. Rumi believed Kate was trying to persuade him to get married. I found his messages pretty funny. He is just as delusional as Kate. He really believed his in-laws were angry over the accounting problems and had no idea about his infidelity. A month after the D-Day, the divorce papers were ready. I called Kate's mom and asked if she was with her. She was surprised by my question, since Kate wasn't there with her. She inquired if all was well. I shared the truth with her. She doubted me and asked for proof. I was completely worn out trying to prove this to everyone. I didn't care if she believed me. I informed her that I would be sending the divorce papers to her home and asked her to have her daughter sign them. An hour later, my phone was filled with Kate's angry voicemails blaming me for ruining her and Remy's life. I didn't block her because I wanted to see how low she would go to mistreat me. I was with this woman for 4 long years. My relationship with her may not be as long as some of the cheating spouse stories shared here, but it still meant a lot to me. I married her, and it was really hard to part ways. After she finished mistreating me, I blocked her. It's been a week since that happened, but she still hasn't signed the divorce papers. I asked Remy's wife if her divorce process has started. The princess is in Vegas for a holiday to escape her depression while her father handles Remy. Wealthy individuals handle situations differently. I'll share more once everything is finished. I want to distance myself from Kate's thoughts and focus on moving forward with my life. Update 2. My divorce is finally settled. Thank you. In my last update, many noticed that I seemed to be dating Remy's ex-wife because of how I expressed my concern. I'm really not interested in dealing with this right now. Also, she's not really my type. I can't picture or pay for a fancy trip after all the struggles I've faced, and I don't want to rely on her father's money, especially after seeing how they treated Remy. Remy's father-in-law claimed that Remy had stolen money from the company, and he managed to prove it in court. I'm not sure if Remy really took money from his Phil company or if someone set him up. Remy's wife was unaware of how her father managed to prove this. She's a wealthy princess who has no idea about the cost of vegetables. Haha. His fraud was used to keep his daughter away from Remy. His wife followed her father's instructions without question. Remy received a large fine and had 3 months to settle it. If he doesn't follow through, he could face criminal charges. The amount is massive, and she knows that Remy won't be able to pay it. He could end up in jail because of this. Additionally, it has resulted in significant damage to his reputation that simple cheating wouldn't have caused. Remy's Phil is definitely impressive. In my situation, Kate used a lot of tricks before she signed the papers. She wanted my house as part of the alimony. She was once a strong advocate for feminism, but when it came time to prove her values, she betrayed me by taking my house. I'm not sure if she would call this feminism. She cheated on me, and now she wants compensation. What kind of logic is that? Thankfully, I had a skilled lawyer who worked hard to protect my house from her grasp, and I was grateful to have proof of her cheating. I have read many stories of victims who were cheated on and lost their property or homes. I wanted a straightforward divorce, but she complicated things, so I went along with it. She informed her coworkers that she was leaving me due to my infidelity, and as a result, she wanted the house as part of the settlement. Additionally, she received a lot of sympathy from her friends and coworkers. I finally took the step I should have taken a long time ago. I shared some explicit chats with Rumi with a few of her coworkers, and you know how people love gossip at work. The chats spread among the faculty, and Kate became the topic of gossip in the teacher's lounge. Kate called me from a landline and yelled at me for leaking her chats. This time, I returned it to her. I warned her to sign the papers, or I would share them with her friends and college students, and it could go viral in the city. My voice was firm and serious, and she understood I was capable of it. I never imagined I would play this way, but she pushed me to it. I didn't tell her mother when she didn't believe me because I didn't want to embarrass her. She accepted my divorce terms and signed the papers at the next court hearing. I'm finally divorced and free from that situation. My friends keep pushing me to start dating again, but I prefer to take my time before getting into it. I haven't spoken to Rumi's wife since her last update about Rumi's court case. I'm not interested in what happens to him. I kept in contact with her until my divorce was finalized. Now that it's over, I want to leave my past behind and focus on my present. I just want to move forward. Inspired by Rumi's ex-wife, I'm planning a solo trip. No, not to Vegas, but to Montana. I hope to return strong and refreshed after my mountain trek in Montana. Thanks for listening and supporting me.